Hello, students. Can you believe that we're already in quarter 2 and week 3? This second 9 weeks seems to be flying by. Okay, let's continue with our lessons. I want to talk to you right now about our vocab words. This week we have 7 vocab words that we're going to focus on. Most of these vocab words are literary devices, elements that help us develop figurative language in our writing and in our reading. 2 of these words, number 4 and number 7, we're going to focus on next week and the week after Thanksgiving. Next week, we are going to begin looking at poetry, and that's what number 4 and 7 have to deal with, poetry and sonnets. I'll come back to that in just a moment. I want to start with words 1 and 2. Okay, so before I do that, words 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 are all literary devices that we see when we're reading certain pieces of literature or poetry. Writers use these to make the writing more appealing and interesting to the reader. It also drives home the point and makes the piece of information pop to the reader. So I want to start with the first 2, number 1 and number 2, assonance and alliteration. You've probably heard of alliteration. You may or may not have heard of assonance, but they're very similar. Assonance, number 1, is the repetition of the same vowel sound. It could be something such as this: how now, brown cow. You hear the ow sound. That is your vowel sound repeating itself. Alliteration is the repetition of the same consonant sounds at the beginning of words. Now, the vowel sound can be at the beginning of the word for assonance, or it can be somewhere in the middle of the word. But when it comes to alliteration, the consonant sound is at the beginning of the word. Rubber, baby, buggy, bumpers. Baby, buggy, bumpers. You hear the BBB, okay? That is alliteration. So alliteration, repetition of the consonant sounds. Assonance, repetition of the vowel sounds. Okay, the next word I want to talk to you about is hyperbole. A hyperbole is also a noun, and it is a figure of speech in which something is greatly exaggerated in order to emphasize a comic or dramatic effect. If I said, my head is hurting so badly, I feel like it could explode. Now, could my head truly, literally explode? No. But that is a hyperbole to kind of accentuate the idea or the point that I've got a really bad headache. Okay, so hyperbole, overly exaggerating to stress and drive home a comic point or dramatic effect. I'll come back to number 4. I want to move on to number 5, personification. I'm sure you're familiar with personification. It's a figure of speech in which the inanimate object is given human qualities. This inanimate object is sometimes even represented as possessing a human form. An example might be, the chair in the corner seems so lonely because no one ever sits in it. Okay, can the chair really have the sensation and the feelings of being lonely? No. So that is personification. Number 6 is simile. Simile is very similar to a metaphor. A simile compares, it's a figure of speech in which things that are not really alike are compared, and they're used or they're introduced by using the word like or as. He is like a ray of sunshine. He's always radiant and beaming. Okay, he is like a ray of sunshine. That is a simile. Now, I want to backtrack and I want to talk to you now about number 4, an I am. An I am is basically an iambic foot, and it has 2 syllables. This term is used in the poetic sense of measuring beats or syllables in poetry. And in an I am, it has 2 syllables. The first syllable is unstressed and the second syllable is stressed. The iambic foot is most commonly used in English poetry. Now, I'm going to come back and talk about this again in just a moment, but I want to move on to number 7, sonnet. Sonnet is a poem that has 14 lines. An Italian sonnet subdivides its 14 lines into 2 quatrains and 2 tercets. An English sonnet divides it into, or subdivides it into 3 quatrains and 1 couplet. Now, when you have a volta in a sonnet, you've got a sudden change of thought in which it's very common for sonnets to have that sudden change of thought. Okay, let me break this down and let me explain to you about the quatrains in a 14-line sonnet. Now, we're going to focus on the English sonnet. We're going to study 3 different English sonnets next week, and then you are going to write your own sonnet to your knight or to your lady. First of all, the English sonnet is divided into 3 quatrains. What that means is it has a rhyming pattern at the end of each line that is A-B, A-B. That's 1 quatrain. And then it has C-D, C-D. That's 2 quatrains. And then the 3rd quatrain is E-F, E-F. Okay, so that covers the 3 quatrains. And then it does the couplet at the very end. And the couplet is G-G. So we have A rhymes with A with a B and a B in the middle. So it's A-B, A-B, C-D, C-D, E-F, E-F, G-G. So the couplet at the end has 2 lines that rhyme with each other. And then that makes the 14 lines of a sonnet. Now let's go back to the I am. An I am is a foot, iambic foot, and it has 2 syllables. A sonnet, each line of a sonnet has 5 I ams. Okay, now if 1 I am has 2 syllables, and each line of a sonnet has 5 I ams, we end up with 10 syllables, okay? And the first syllable is unstressed, the second is stressed. So you would have a line that has 10 syllables, and that 10 syllables, okay, you could use the word neighborhood. That word neighborhood has actually 3 syllables. You could use that if you started with in my neighborhood lives a little man. Okay, I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that is 10 syllables. It does not matter how many words you have in the line. It matters how many syllables. And some syllables are 3 per word and some are 2. Okay? Yes, there are times that 4 syllables come out of one word. So now you should have a deep understanding of an I am and a sonnet, along with all of the other literary devices. Please put these notes in your study guide, your vocabulary study guide organizer, and begin studying.